Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Well, today I am excited to be joined by Ashley Bennett, the author of Muscles and Monsters. It's a delightfully charming story that blends romance, monsters, and heart. It's the first book in the Leviathan Fitness series. And Sit, Stay, Read features books with animal characters. This is a little different animal character, and I love that. So, Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on.
Well, I'm excited to have you because, first of all, Muscles and Monsters, what a fun title. So I have to ask, what came first, the title, the monsters, the love story?
So I think that the story probably came first, and then
Okay.
the title, once I had the setting, the title seemed kind of like natural to go in that direction. Gym, muscles, has monsters in it. So
I love it. I love it. And our animal characters we're talking about is not a normal gym, doesn't have normal clients. So tell us a little bit about that.
so it is a monster romance, and
I love
it's
it.
like paranormal romance adjacent, I guess. Is in, we have a strictly not 100% human main character. So he is in his monster form the entire time.
Okay, because I was like, is he a werewolf? I saw Wolven, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I am not up on my paranormal terms. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get myself in trouble here this way. But
Oh no.
so it's basically like a werewolf that he never
Yes.
goes to human. Okay,
Yes. He is in his wolfman form the entire time.
I love that. And how would you describe this book to someone who's never read a monster romance before?
So I think that it's cozy and spicy. And if you've never read a monster romance, I think that my books are a really good gateway into the genre because they're easy reads, cute characters. And I think that too, there's just enough differences to where, I guess it, has those monstrous aspects, but then is still
Well,
very accessible for a non-monster romance reader to kind of catch on to.
I love it. And I love how it's cozy and spicy. Tell us a little more about that, just so listeners have a good idea of what you mean by that, because it's a lot of fun.
So I really love writing, cozy slice of life romance. But I also like, more explicit romance too. So I try to balance the story to have these cozy elements and then, kind of that like more adult scenes, I guess. But I don't like to kind of there needs to be that balance for me, I guess. It needs to
Yeah.
feel like I'm not just adding scenes just to add scenes, that
Yes.
it kind of needs to be we're having all these cute moments that are building up to this. So that's, when I'm writing my books, that's something that I really try to focus on.
I love that. And you have two fun main characters, and we meet Tegan and Atlas, and I love Tegan's entrance. Poor Tegan. It's not a great day, but it's also kind of funny. So tell us a little bit about Tegan and Atlas.
So Tegan is a baker and she has devoted her life essentially to her job. I think that that's very relatable for so many of us.
Yeah. Yes.
And then Atlas also kind of in the same boat, but he's coming off of a failed relationship. Also very relatable, I think, for many of us. And their meet cute is when she is transporting a wedding cake by herself and she drops the biggest tear on the ground. So
Yes.
she's having this total breakdown moment, and he stops to help her in that moment. And I just think that that really shows Atlas and who he is as a character, very willing to help, very
Yeah.
caring. And then I think too, I love that Tegan, who's normally I feel pretty put together and in charge of things, just absolutely losing her cool, which I think that we've all had that moment too, where you have
I know
reached
I
your
have.
limit. You've reached your
Yes.
limit in the day, and then you're having your moment, and then of course someone stumbles upon you in that moment. So I really feel for her, but I love it. I think it's very cute.
I think it's cute too, and I love how from that she decides she needs to go to the gym, and
Yeah.
so fill us in a little bit on that part of the storyline because it's
So
fun.
I didn't want to have, a mid-sized main character where there's like a weight loss focus to the story. I think that, there's enough stories out there that are like
Yeah.
that. Tegan's very comfortable with her body, but she does want to, gain some strength, especially
Yeah.
so this sort of thing doesn't happen again in the future. And I think that, that's also something that's relatable for so many people. You kind of want to work on that functional fitness, I guess.
Yes.
So, obviously she wants to see Atlas again, but then also she does actually want to work on building some muscle. So she decides to join his gym.
I love that. I love that. And of course, the gym we discover the patrons are all
Yes.
different types of monsters.
Yes. All different types of monsters.
Do you have a favorite? It was Atlas because I know there are more books coming in this series. So
Yes.
tell
Um,
us a little bit about some of these different monsters. I love them.
So Atlas is our wolf man. We already talked about him. His tail wagging, I think, is absolutely adorable. So I'm pretty partial to him, I think. And then in book two, we have Cyrus. He's a kraken, which I also
I
love.
love.
Writing. I love that with writing monster romance, there's not those, I guess limitations. So you can pick
Yeah.
like an actual monster, or you can make something, totally unique. Um, but Cyrus, I think that's just
It
he's
sounds
very
like he's your favorite.
romantic. I don't know. I think that the main character, Alistair, from the third book, he's a Minotaur. I think he might be my favorite.
Okay. Oh, very
Yes,
cool.
he's very, very book boyfriend, and that book is a later in life romance. So it's,
Oh, cool.
characters who are, I think they're in their 50s, which,
Oh,
that I feel like
cool.
was kind of a risk, I think, for me to write
Yeah.
that. Just feel like, my main audience is not that age, but I had such a fun time writing that story, and I think that anybody deserves love, it regardless of their
Yeah.
age. It doesn't mean you can't
Yeah.
find somebody. But Alistair, I just think is like he's a perfect book boyfriend. So I don't know. I guess Minotaurs maybe are my favorite, at least in my own series. If I'm reading a monster romance, I think that hmm, I don't know. I think that I like orc romances the best.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Cool.
yeah.
Oh, that is fun. Were there any monster traits in particular that you enjoyed writing? Because
Um,
to me, they're fun, unusual characters. So,
yeah. I think that, for Atlas, fated mates are obviously not anything new. That's, kind of a staple of paranormal romance.
right.
But I really love that, fated mate bond that he has with Tegan.
Yeah.
So I think that that's probably one of my favorite, kind of woven attributes is him having that. Um,
Oh.
and like I said, the tail wagging also very cute.
I love the tail wagging. Of course, you were saying before we started recording, did you say five dogs?
Yes, I do.
So you know tail wags, you know them well.
Yes. And when you work in vet medicine, I feel like you kind of get all the misfit dogs. So like my
Yes.
pack of dogs is like I have two deaf dogs and
Oh, wow.
like a rescue chihuahua that had like a floppy leg when we got her and just
And you're a vet
uh,
tech. Is that what
I was before
you
I
were?
started
Okay.
writing full time.
Okay.
And I worked in radiation oncology. That was my
Oh,
last vet
wow.
tech job. It was very sad. So, once
Yeah.
my writing started to do well, I was kind of like, I need to take some time away from this for a little bit. So, but
Yeah,
I
it
do
would be
miss it
hard.
though. It's,
Oh,
yes, all of your patients just have cancer and it's devastating.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. But
Yes.
your dogs are all okay.
Yes. Mine are all okay. Some are getting up
Okay.
there in age, but no major problems. So
Good.
they're all
Good.
good.
That's good. Oh my gosh. Well, and I read in your bio that you started writing this book during COVID. Is
I
that so? Give us a
did.
little bit, and this is going to be a re-release of the book. So I would love to hear your publishing journey with this book
So
from
I
COVID
was
on.
so I during COVID I started reading romance, really getting into romance. And I think that I kind of want to credit ACOTAR for that. Like, A Court of Thorns and Roses, that fantasy romance series, really getting
Yeah.
me into the romance genre. I've been an avid reader all my life, but kind of took some time away, like when I became a mom. And then, when I had a young
Yeah.
daughter, that's when I really started reading again a lot. I guess I needed that escapism. And I was just a big fan of the monster romances that I had read. And it was kind of having a moment at that time. Ruby Dixon and C.M. Nascosta, Ruby writes Alien, but still kind of same vein.
Okay.
Were doing well. And I was like, I think I could write one of these. So I was working my vet tech job and writing in my spare time. I think I wrote the book in like a month, maybe a month and a half,
Wow.
which
Wow.
I mean, that's like a short, the original iteration was like 32,000 words, like I said. So no, a novella. But it did really well. It got to, what was it? 126 in the Amazon web store.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I'm very proud of that. I totally did
You
not
should
expect
be.
that. Thank you. Totally did not expect that to happen. And then once I kind of had that moment where it was that reliable income, I quit my vet tech job, which was hard to make that decision and kind of
Yeah.
take that leap and bet on myself. But it
Yeah.
ended up paying off. It's
Nice.
so from there, I self-published all three books in the series, and then I had this vampire romance that I was promoting and I was going to self-publish, and I was approached by a publisher, like via
Wow.
Instagram, about, my romance. And then when, I started having some meetings, and Berkeley was like, oh, we'd like to buy your back catalog too. And I was shocked,
Nice.
taken back by that. But I did want to make some changes to the series, and then obviously, putting them to an actual full-length novel seemed like the best, kind of route with Berkeley. So that's what
Yeah.
I ended up doing. It's been great working with a publisher because coming from self-publishing, I'm used to being in total control of everything, which is great, but it's a lot of work. So that's been nice to kind of have my publisher backing me. But
Yeah.
I think that as far as, learning about myself, the expansions were very difficult.
I was
And I
going to
think that's
ask
just,
about that.
yes. So taking a beloved story and then having to change parts of it, and worrying about, am I taking out parts that people love? Is the new content, like, can you tell
Right.
that it's added? I've had people tell me that you can't tell, so that's good. Um, so that was just very stressful for me, as well as, kind of operating within a strict, timeline. I'm more
Yeah.
used to like kind of going with the flow and, like I said, being my own boss. And I've only worked with editors who, like, it's like a friend of a friend who edits. So
Okay.
I didn't really have a concrete deadline for when. I'm like an agent of chaos. Like, the book
Okay,
is,
so I love
yeah,
that.
the book is finished when it's finished, and then I'll get it to you. So that's been a transition for me, but I'm doing my best. Um, but I'm really happy with how things turned out. That, I think that the original fans of the series are going to love the additions, and then I'm hoping that, it'll
Ah.
bring new readers into monster romance.
Oh, I think it definitely will. I mean, I'll be honest, when I first received the information on it, I was like, monster romance. There's so many great subgenres out there that I feel
There
like
are.
it's fun to explore, and this was definitely one of them. Now, are you expanding were all the books a novella, and then are you
So
expanding all three? Is that
yes, so the first two were kind of on the shorter 32,000 words, 48,000 words. And then I think that the third one was like 62,000. So that didn't really,
okay?
that didn't really need that much. But I did all three of them last year, and then they're going to be
Oh,
released this
wow.
year. Yeah, last year was it was a challenge. I'm proud of myself for, getting everything done and just making the transition. But I think,
Definitely.
yeah, I think it's going to be a lot easier from here on out with just one book a year, will be better. Because it's very hard to go from it's it's you're adding to the books, but it's still three different stories that you're working
Yeah.
on like back to back to back. And then you have to make sure that the changes that you made in the first book are reflected in the two consecutive books. So, but I think it turned
Wow.
out well. I'm happy with it.
That's awesome. Now, I'm curious, just as a fellow writer, when you receive this message from the publisher, there's so many scams right now going on. All of us
There
authors are talking
are.
about like, oh, it's another book club email, it's another, whatever. And how did you react to that email? Did you take it? I probably would have been like, it's another scam.
So I was very shocked. I had to look the person up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
They were a real person. And then, kind of from there, I had some friends that hooked me up with an agent, and I was like, hey,
Oh, good.
I
Okay.
was talking to my agent, and I was like, hey, I've had this person approach me, and my agent was like, yes, that is a legitimate person. And
Okay.
I would love to read your manuscripts, because I like sort of had an agent, but sort of didn't. It was kind of a weird time. I had like a sub rights agent, but
Oh, interesting.
not, like I don't want to say legitimate, but someone who had experience working with bigger publishers, I guess is what
Okay.
the phrasing that I'm
Okay.
looking for. So from there, I got an agent, and then we went out on submission, which was very interesting, like
Yeah.
very stressful to like hear from people and hear what they have to say about your writing. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience. And honestly, I couldn't even believe that it was happening for me, I guess. I never
That's
expected to
cool.
kind of take that route in my career. My vampire romance, I think, is the best book that I've ever written. I know I shouldn't
Nice.
say that when I have books coming out, but I personally think it's the best book I've ever written. And then to kind of get that validation, I guess, of promoting
Yeah.
it, and an agent or an editor seeing that and then being
Yeah.
interested, I was very flattered by that. But yes, there's so many scams going on that at first I was like, is this a legitimate thing? Like, does this person really want to read my book? So yeah, I guess, you never know what's going to happen in the age of
No.
social media, I guess. I was making
Yeah.
these aesthetic reel, like book reel, trailers, I
Okay.
guess. And yeah, they started doing really well, and I guess that's kind of what
That's what
brought
caught the eye.
everything into the spotlight, I guess.
Okay. Well, and I would imagine that also brought the audience to your books that
It
you were talking about for it to hit such a high
Yeah.
ranking. So,
Um, my audience, I have the best readers. Like, I'm so thankful for them. Every time I do an acknowledgments, I'm always extremely appreciative of, the support that they've given me. I lost my dad, you know,
so
a
sorry.
year into my publishing journey. Thank you. And it's just the the support and love I've received
Yeah.
from my reader base, it's been amazing. And then their support as I make this transition, because I predominantly have a lot of Kindle Unlimited readers because my
Yeah.
books were
Yeah.
in KU. And I have readers who are following me as I make this transition, because that was a
Yes.
kind of a concern too. I didn't want people to think that, like, I guess I was leaving readers behind because my books weren't going to be in KU anymore. But the reception's been great.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is
Yeah.
really good. That is really
Yeah.
good. And now, so we know we have three books coming out pretty close together. Is that right?
I have,
I looked at that and now I'm forgetting. I
it's
apologize.
okay. I have February 10th is Muscles and Monsters.
Just this
June
month. Yep.
9th is Tentacles and Triathlons. And September 1st is Mantras and Minotaurs.
I
It's a
love
very
it.
busy year this year.
That is a very busy year. So,
Yes.
in the middle of all that, are you trying to write a book for, or do we get to read a vampire romance? Because we're
So
about due for a good vampire romance here.
yeah, 2026 has a lot of them coming out.
Oh, does
So
it
I think that,
really?
yeah,
Interesting.
the
Okay.
audiences, I think, will be very, ready for when mine comes out in
Yeah.
2027. So I'm
Okay.
working on edits to that book right now. And then
Nice.
I'm going to start writing book two. So
Okay.
this is like so stressful for me because I've never, published kind of in this way before. I've never been
Yeah.
making edits while I'm working on the next book, just because, in indie, it's like you kind of finish one and then you move on to the next. I mean, at least that's how I am. So that's kind of been a
Yeah.
transition too, is copy edits while you're working on the next book. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I feel
and
you there. I feel you.
yeah.
Yeah, that is a tough thing to juggle. What advice would you give someone who's self-publishing and
Um,
then maybe wants to transition into the traditional?
I think that, just kind of focus on those skills that you've built in self-publishing. I think that self-published authors wear so many different hats that I
Yeah.
think that, you know, when we do move to traditional publishing, it is a little bit hard to let go of that control. But remember that,
Yeah.
your publisher, your agent, your editor, your publicist, all these people are there to help you and they want your book to be the best that it's going to be. So rely on those people when you can. Yeah, and just kind of enjoy the experience.
I love that.
It's
I love it.
it's yeah, it's very exciting. And I think that too many authors are very hard on themselves too. So just,
Yeah.
enjoy that moment. Enjoy that moment of success before you're like, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next thing now. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yes. Oh, yes, you're right. We all are. I think when you're an
Yes.
author and maybe that's something readers don't realize is how hard we are on ourselves. So it's good to talk
Creatives,
about it.
creatives, I think, are some of the like hardest on our like most perfectionist like and then it's very
Yeah.
difficult to put your work out there for other people to give their commentary on it takes a lot to put yourself out there like that, so
Yeah.
very proud of all of us who do this.
Definitely. Well, fun question. What scene in Muscles and Monsters surprised you the most when you were writing?
What scene surprised me the most? I think that when I was writing the expansion, I have in the original novella, Tegan drops the wedding cake and it's a wedding that she's going to go to. And then for the expansion, I added the wedding that they're both in attendance
Oh,
at the
fun.
wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have their meet cute and then they meet each other again. And I think that that scene is just one of my favorites. When you know someone and you're at an event and you see somebody sitting by themselves and, you're like, okay, let me go over and I'll talk to them so they're not sitting there
Yeah.
alone. And I just think that that's one of my favorite moments in the book. Again, very relatable, especially, if you're the new person and you don't know anyone. Yeah, and I just thought it was very sweet. And then their whole, the whole entire time that they're at the wedding together, it's just very sweet and very cute. So I think that
I
I
love
kind of
that.
surprised myself there with, writing something that I loved, that made the original version even better.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because you have this dropped wedding cake. You got to have a wedding at some point.
Yes, exactly. It's for the mayor's daughter. Like we need to
Yeah.
actually have the wedding in the story. That's been a
Definitely.
big thing too, like learning about, my writing process and seeing my skills as a writer progress. Like there's some scenes from before where I was like, where was I even going with this? Like what was my thought process here? But I think that I just genuinely didn't know. I had never plotted anything before. I was just like
Yeah,
jumping right into it. So it's been nice to kind of go back with that knowledge now. It's like, okay,
I
let's do
bet.
some actual pacing.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I bet there was, well, I don't know. I'm making an assumption here. You can tell me if I'm right, but maybe on your the first time it came out, there were probably some scenes you're like, oh, maybe I should have expanded that. Now you have the chance to do that, which is so much
Yes,
fun.
absolutely. Opportunities to kind of strengthen the side characters too, build the lore of the town. All of that I was able to do in the expansions, and I'm so glad that I was able to make those changes.
That's awesome. That is great. Well, my other fun question is if you had a choice, would you do a cozy night in or a monster date night?
Oh, I'm the cozy night in.
I love it.
I love a good date night, but I like to be at home on my couch with a tea. I like to listen to my ASMR in the like silence of the evening.
Yeah.
Very much a homebody.
I love it. I love it. I think I'm right there with you. So
Good. So I don't feel alone.
I was just curious, you have this fun
Oh, that's
monster.
great.
So, you have a fun wolf you might want to go out with. So, well, we talked about what's up next, but is there going to be a book four in this series after your vampires, or is it? uh,
Potentially. It's kind
Okay.
of, I'm contracted for a book, but we'll see, if it's another vampire book or if it's another monster book. So we'll see.
Okay.
I have kind of
Okay.
other stuff planned, for monster romance moving forward, I guess,
Fun.
but I
Okay.
definitely will write more of them moving forward. But as of right now, I'm just going to focus. We're pivoting to vampire romance for right now. So I'm going to focus on that. I'm using present tense in that, which I seem to
Cool.
prefer now. So that's been interesting too, kind of
Oh,
learning about myself.
interesting.
Yeah, from going to
Yeah.
past tense to present tense.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, we're just going to kind of feel things out, see, what the market looks like, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that'll be fun. Well, where can readers connect with you, find you? Obviously, you're on social media, but do you have like a newsletter, website? Fill us in on all that.
I do. So I am on Instagram at Ashley
Cool.
Bennett Author. I have a website, ashleybennettauthor.com. And then on my
Nice.
website, you can sign up for my newsletter. I think also there's a link in my Instagram profile as well that you can sign up for my newsletter.
Cool.
Um, please do that. I love sending newsletters. I put pictures of my pets in my newsletters
Oh,
occasionally.
fun.
My cat was in my last newsletter that went out last week.
Aw,
Yeah, but I love interacting with readers. So if you ever want to chat, you can find me in any of those places.
that's awesome. And I should have asked. I asked about the dogs. I didn't even think. So you have a cat? Who else
I
is
have
in the
three
house?
cats,
You have three. Oh my gosh.
all
Okay.
all rescues. Yes. But I feel like to most people that sounds very weird. Like, oh,
Oh,
that's a
not to
crazy
me.
number of pets. But I feel like for
Oh.
a lot of the vet techs that I've known, very many people have a lot of pets.
Well, if you're an animal lover, I mean,
Yes.
it's I at one point I had five dogs, two horses, and a pony. So
Oh, so yeah,
since
you
then
totally get me
I
about the
and
dogs then.
I do. And I'm not a vet tech, so
Yeah. Well,
so I
that's
have
too.
no,
Well,
but
I mean, just being
they
an
all came
animal
along.
person.
Yeah.
I've worked with someone who had eight dogs, but her husband
Wow.
was a police officer, so like one was his work dog, and then they also had a bomb detection dog that like made
Oh,
his
cool.
own salary. Very interesting. But
That's very
yeah,
cool.
we're not alone in our having a lot of animals. So
No, no. And right now I just have one dog, a cat, and a horse. And my cousin said, "How are you down to such few animals? When are you going to get more animals?" I
well,
said,
it's
"Well,
also like the
it just kind of
economy
goes
now,
that
it's
way."
expensive. Yeah,
It
well, and I feel like
is.
too, at least a few of mine are all very close, like some of them are very close in age.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. When I lose them, I'm sure it's gonna be
Yeah.
one after another. And that was kind of how it was with our last, group of dogs that we had, that like one of my boxers had cancer,
Yeah.
and then another one had an immune mediated disease, and then another one had,
Yeah.
he was like kind of a hospice case, and he had like congestive heart failure. So it's
Oh,
like, I feel like too, when you lose them, you lose a couple at a time, and then,
yeah.
it hurts
Yeah.
losing animals after animals
It
after
does.
animals. So
It
then you kind of like,
does.
I need to take a break for a while.
And this is the perfect break to take with it, I think.
Yes.
So
Thank you for
it's a good
plugging the
way
book.
to, yeah, Muscles and Monsters is a great way to get, because yes, you're right. We tend to lose these animals, but this is just a fun animal character. So I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing so much with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love talking about books and I love talking about animals. So this is just like the perfect podcast for me. So
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we'll have to have you back on because I love vampires. So, and I guess you could
there's
argue.
dogs in the vampire
Oh,
romance.
perfect, perfect. I was gonna say
Yes,
we'll just
the
call
side
them,
characters are the dogs.
Okay, you're
I should
coming
have
back
mentioned
on.
that. I would love that, please.
Yeah, we will. That is so much fun. I don't know if I've ever read a vampire book that had a dog in it. Now that I think about
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not, again, I'm not, I don't read a ton, but it's, yeah,
Well, I
certainly.
mean,
Oh,
just imagine
awesome.
too, like our lifetimes when you're that old, like you need to have something to do with your life and look forward to.
Yeah,
So his dog is kind of like his best friend.
I love that. Okay, well, you keep in touch and we'll have to talk about
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, if you love spicy romance, fun paranormal characters, check out Muscles and Monsters. And until next time, keep your tails wagging and pages turning. Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.